This is the Insta360 X4. Let's talk about it. Before we jump into it, two things to mention here. One, I am not sponsored by Insta360. They are not sponsoring this video, so you are gonna get my honest opinion of this action camera. Number two, stick around with me to the end of this video, because I am going to be explaining what I believe is the biggest weakness of the Insta360 X4. I'm actually genuinely having a pretty hard time figuring out where to start with this video. It would be nice to get a full tour of the X4 Insta360 and show you all of the external features. So that's where I'm gonna start. Let's start with the dual cameras that you have here. And I have these lens caps on here because I love to be able to protect my lenses. There's nothing worse than scratching a lens of an action camera. Just really makes you angry because then you have to get a new action camera. The fact that we can have these lens protectors just makes it even better. I mean, when you're trying to capture action shots, it's really hard to be careful. So you have the dual cameras on either side. It's amazing because it is capturing 360 degrees all the way around this device. With certain spots on the camera, it's definitely doing some kind of stitching. And so you want to make sure you're pointing it more at your subject. That's really the only pointing you have to focus on. But the stitching is really actually incredible. And in a lot of cases, I haven't noticed it or it doesn't bother me that much. The battery life on this is 135 minutes of recording time. 135 minutes of recording time. You have a 2.5-inch touchscreen here. The touchscreen is seamless and so easy to use. I'm gonna dive into that a little bit later. You have two microphones that are picking up audio on either side of the device, and then you have one speaker. So if you're rewatching some of your previous footage, you can hear what it sounds like. Obviously, you have a tripod connection here on the bottom, and if you pair that with these magic disappearing tripods, you can get some pretty stinking cool shots because it's going to make this tripod disappear. It almost seems like you have a drone following you. Other things I will point out, you have this power button on the side. This turns the device on and off. Once the device is on, if you do a quick push on the power button, it's going to turn off the display. That's kind of a nice feature because it saves battery and it means your display doesn't have to be running the entire time. If you do another quick push of the power button, it'll turn that display back on. This Q button will actually cycle you through different presets that you have on the device. Below the touchscreen, you have your record button, and then you also have a menu button here. The menu button is just going to let you select what you want to do. So that could be video, pictures, time lapse, etc. Other things I will point out is you have a USB-C connection right here on the side of the device. This is where you could connect an external microphone if you would like to do that. It also doubles as the place where you charge your device as well as connect it to your computer if you're wanting to transfer files. Lastly, I'll point out this is where the battery goes. All you have to do is pinch either side and the battery is going to pop out. The SD card actually slides into here as well. So if you're replacing your SD card, just know that it's underneath where the battery is. Okay, I think we have explored the outside of the Insta360 enough. Let's go ahead and talk about the display. The display is super intuitive. It's easy to use. There's not any glitching or anything like that. You know how some touchscreens are just garbage? This one is not garbage. Let's do a deep dive into some of the things you'll see on the display. So in the top left-hand corner, you're gonna see how much recording time you still have left on your SD card. Your battery life that you have in the top right-hand corner. And then below, you're also going to see some field of view options. You have three different ones. You have Mega, which is just your aspect ratio is even more distorted. You have Ultra, and then you have De-Warp. You have an option to just flip the camera all the way around, back and forth. You also have the option of just dragging your finger around the screen so that you can decide where you want the camera pointed. And then the last option that you have on this main home screen is to select what resolution and frame rate you will be filming in. You can go from 4K all the way up to 8K. 8K. 8K! So you can shoot in 8K, 30 frames per second. You can also just shoot in 4K and go all the way up to 100 frames per second. Before I move on from talking about the display, I want to give you a few tips that might be helpful for you because it took me a little bit to figure out how to do this. So here's tip number 1. Swipe to the right. That is exactly how you will find your footage, and then from there you can just swipe up and see the different shots that you have taken and rewatch them really quickly so that you know you captured exactly what you wanted to. In order to get back to the main screen, just swipe back to the left. Here is tip number 2. If you swipe left from the main screen, now you're gonna find options for your exposure, your ISO, your filters. So you can go through that and adjust it to exactly what you want. So you can choose a filter, or you can go through and change the ISO and your exposure on your own to get the exact look that you're looking for. And again, to get back to the main screen, you're just going to swipe back to the right. A swipe from the top also reveals a lot of different menu options. I'm not going to go through all of these right now. I just wanted to show you that swiping from the top, side, left, and right gets you to different places. What do I think about this display? I love it. Now this is where this Insta360 gets absolutely incredible. 8K. 8K. And the reason that's awesome for an action camera is because I don't have to focus as much where I'm pointing the camera. I can film in 8K all the way around me, and then in post-production, I can zoom in on what I want. It is an amazing way to be able to capture footage and not have to worry as much about where the camera is pointed. Like legitimately, this camera has removed the need to point and shoot, and instead just shoot. Literally just put it onto a tripod like this, hit record, and you can get incredibly creative shots with this setup. The other great thing about the Insta360 is how incredibly stable the footage becomes. Because the camera is capturing 360 degrees all the way around, the auto stabilization feature is amazing. So when I put this footage into 9x16, I can't even really tell that there's any shake at all. Like for example, this skiing footage that I took, I had zero worries about where the camera was, how much I was shaking it, none of that. Yet the footage came out so smooth. It really is mind-blowing. In fact, there were a few shots I took where I kind of tried to test it, tried to make the footage a little bit shaky. And even then, I was like, this footage looks incredible. The other amazing thing about this camera is you can get really unique shots. Camera angles that you could not get with any other camera, where you're kind of capturing the world around you, or having some kind of horizon lock, or setting the camera on a tripod somewhere and walking around the camera, confident that the camera is capturing all of that. I will say that it's not a camera that you use for everything, but it is a camera that you can use for most things. Any type of action activity, I'm gonna wanna have this with me. Some of you might be like, okay, Spencer, look, I hear you. Okay, the camera is really good, and clearly you have nothing bad to say about it. Actually, I do have some notes. What I do think is tricky for most people is that this camera does require some back-end work. The person who doesn't do a lot of editing, it might be a bit of a challenge, because now you have captured footage 360 degrees around, it's all in 8K, but you have to recognize that you need to be able to edit that footage in post-production. So that would be my only note to those who are out there who may have never used editing software before. If you buy an Insta360, you're gonna be a little bit frustrated trying to learn the software on the back end. I am not doing a full back end editing video right now in the Insta360 software. I'm going to do that video later. Just know that if you buy this camera, you film with it, you're gonna need to learn how to use Insta360's editing software. The software is easy to use. It's not too complicated. I guess my point is it's not that hard to edit, but if it's your first time with a 360 camera, you're definitely gonna want some coaching on it. Another weakness I'm gonna mention here, low light, not great. This camera was built for bright light footage. If I use it in the evening times, I start to really dislike the way that the footage looks. Oh my goodness, did I even mention that this thing's waterproof up to 33 feet? You don't need a dive case or anything. You're probably gonna want a dive case because it'll improve your footage underwater. However, waterproof? All right, that is the full review of the Insta360 X4. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. I love to be able to interact with you and engage with you when I can. I have this camera with me at all times, so if you want to ask a very specific niche question, I will be sure to respond to you. Thank you so much for being here. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so. We are going to continue to create incredible content that hopefully answers the questions that you have. I have always thought that if I can answer a question for you or solve a problem, that is my main goal for this channel. Hopefully I've done so today. My name is Spenny. This channel is Spill the Goods. We'll talk to you soon.